back at the Newcastle United Media Centre in a slightly different location. The weather, the rain, the cold, and people working in the actual press conference room have sort of pushed us out to one of the changing rooms here at Whitley Park, if you like.
I think it's nice to give the viewers a lovely new background of just a changing room. I think this was like an officials changing room, just one of the smaller ones with a random green bin over there. But yeah, we'll try to give different
a bit of
backgrounds into this unbelievable media centre, either outside, or sitting on any Howe's hot seat, or here. So
yeah, new location for us, but same. Speaking to Eddie Howe once again. I mean, you were saying, God, we've spoken to Eddie Howe more than you speak to some of your own family at times. I've
seen Eddie Howe more times in December than my mum and dad.
It's shocking. I'd probably say the same as well. He is like our family.
He might not say that.
No, I doubt it. But yes, today, looking ahead to the Arsenal game, Carabao Cup semi-final, Newcastle go into the game in great form, 6 wins in a row in all competitions. The Carabao Cup final place up for grabs in terms of, well, this is the first leg, but over the course of 2 legs. And it's another huge game, a huge challenge. Eddie Howe will have to rotate his side with the quick turnaround, but then also suspension to Bruno Guimaraes, who very rarely misses games for Newcastle United. We'll get on to that in a second. But
you're a Stafford.
Yes, 8 games. This will be the 8th game he's missed since he signed for the club. There's 7 games previously. Newcastle have not won any of them. So make of that what you will. But yes, we'll get on to that more in a bit, because I think, given it's the January transfer window, a good place to start is always with transfers. Incomings, as we know, are not forthcoming at the moment. But outgoings, Martin Dubravka, he's the sort of talk of the January transfer window in regards to Newcastle, and some breaking reports over the weekend from Saudi Arabia, which you take with a pinch of salt. Martin Dubravka was meant to sign at the start of January, and that's been pushed back, and then a deal is definitely there on the table, but Newcastle have not sanctioned it as of yet. But the reports over the weekend were that the Arsenal game would be Martin Dubravka's last game for the club. Eddie Howe was asked about that, Jordan. What did he say?
Totally dodged the question.
Yeah.
Said no, just concentrating on the games that are to come. Arsenal tomorrow, spoke of the Tottenham game. I think, for me, the non-answer
is an answer.
Is an answer. Yeah, I think that speaks a lot of volumes. I think that is another indication that Martin Dubravka will expect, didn't he, leave his football club before the end of the transfer window. You asked a question about Nick Pope being back. How didn't
he dodge that as well.
Yeah, he did. So yeah, I think that speaks 1,000 words. I think that probably indicates that he is on his way out. Indicates that Nick Pope will probably be back for the next Premier League game. I mean, obviously they've got the Bromley game on the weekend, but that could see an Odyssey's back at Demos, or maybe a John Ruddy. But yeah, for me, I feel like there is some truth in those Saudi Arabia reports. The way the sort of press works over there, I imagine it's very, very different. Can't imagine it's just some guy totally making this up. They're getting information from somewhere. I think it's clear that the player wants to go because he's out of contract at the end of the season. Won't get a new contract here, I don't think.
No.
And then you without knowing the terms of the contract offers on the table, but it would likely be more lucrative as well. So I think Dubravka wants to go. I think Eddie Howe spoke about respecting the players' wishes, and for me, if the Arsenal game is to these last, which I think it possibly could be based on what we've been hearing, then I think it's really nice that he's had his final dance in the Newcastle shirt, because there was a time when his legacy was maybe tarnished a little bit with the Manchester United loan. And then, of course, when even last season, I think the more games he played, they were conceding a lot of goals, and there was a lot of criticism in Dubravka, but he came in 6 games, only conceded 2 goals. Okay, barely faced a shock, but I think he's had a really positive end of his Newcastle career. If it is to be the end, of course, I'm not saying it is, but the feeling that I'm getting, and that's only way I can talk to you guys, is the feeling I'm getting is I think that probably, if it's not Arsenal, he will leave the club before the end of the transfer window.
Yes, and that would be my not wish, because we spoke in our previous video, we don't necessarily want Martin Dubravka to leave the football club, but if the player is going to leave, I'd rather it be later in the window, because he's playing so well. Actually, I say playing so well. Newcastle are playing so well with him in the team, and I think probably against Spurs, even though he conceded his first Premier League goal, probably had his best game. He made a couple of good saves. His distribution again was excellent, and I think just this important run of fixtures, there's some winnable games coming up in the Premier League, of course. You'd imagine he'd be dropped out the side for the FA Cup game anyway, but in terms of the Premier League, there's some big games coming up, the likes of Wolves, Bournemouth, Southampton, Fulham even before the end of the transfer window. So do you try and keep hold of Martin Dubravka as long as possible and then sanction that move? But the reports from Saudi Arabia are that Arsenal will be his last game, but then also take it with a pinch of salt in the fact that they've also, various outlets have reported that Martin Dubravka will be signed at the weekend, last weekend, 1st of January, so it's just been pushed back and pushed back. No doubt Al-Shabaab, which is the club he is expected to join, want that deal to be done as soon as possible. They want Martin Dubravka in the building. Martin Dubravka probably happy to join that club at any stage, but Newcastle, their stance will be, look, we've got a fit, informed goalkeeper, we haven't got Nick Pope available, so while that's the case, Martin Dubravka cannot leave the club. So it's an interesting one, we'll keep an eye on it. Obviously check out Newcastle World and the Shields Gazette for all the updates on that. We'll have our fingers on the pulse of Martin Dubravka's transfer situation while on the train to Arsenal and all that tomorrow, and we'll definitely be sure to get some answers from Eddie Howe after the Arsenal game based on Martin Dubravka's future as well, depending on how that game goes.
It might not be his final game, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised. I think, as I've said, I think he probably will leave the club before the end of the window, and you probably look at the next group of games that have got Bromley at the weekend. Could you make a change and go in there regardless of the Martin Dubravka being at the football club, where you've got, say, Vlaco Dimos and John Ruddy,
Mark
Gillespie as well, which he's a training goalkeeper, I think, but they've got a lot of numbers, certainly. So, but because Martin Dubravka has been playing so well, it feels like you almost can't let him go, and I still stand by this decision. I don't think they should let him go, because when Nick Pope comes back in, it's like a change of approach again, where Martin Dubravka's been that man that can pass the ball out and very, very good with his feet, whereas Nick Pope comes back in and, as we've seen, isn't anywhere near as good with his feet. And if you need to make that change again and the team have regressed, then you need to make a change, because you need a ball playing goalkeeper. You haven't got Martin Dubravka there, and then you've got I think the one off that's probably Vlaco Dimos, based on what we've seen in pre-season. He can't play with his feet, but we haven't seen anything of him bar 45 minutes against Wimbledon. Hasn't came close to playing games. So I think because there feels like there's doubts over Vlaco Dimos, and if you were to have to rely on him at some point in the season and you haven't got Dubravka, actually let him go, you'd look back in the January window and go, why did I let Martin Dubravka go? So I still think they should keep him, but Eddie Howe spoke about respecting the players' wishes, and I think the players' wish is to go, and we'll wait and see if or more likely when he will leave the club. Yeah,
and it seems dependent on Nick Pope's fitness, which was obviously the question asked Eddie Howe. Couldn't guarantee whether he'd be back for the Wolves game, but he did say 6 weeks from that initial Brentford injury, which happened about 4 or 5 weeks ago now. So he is getting near that time frame for a return, but crucially hasn't been back in full training yet. Eddie Howe said he'll see him today, assess that situation, and then they'll make a decision further down the line. But very much the focus at the moment is on Arsenal, which Nick Pope won't be involved for. There's a few players also out. Fabian Schär suspended, Bruno crucially suspended, where something I've put to Eddie Howe previously is Bruno has only missed 7 games for Newcastle since he signed for the football club. Newcastle failed to win all 7. When I said, how do you deal without Bruno in the side? He simply said, I don't know, and hopefully I won't need to know. So you will have to find a way on Tuesday night at the Emirates Stadium. And how does he do that, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean it's impossible to replace Bruno. It's such a massive blow not having him there.
Yeah.
It honestly,
He was asked if
He
you
was asked
go
about
out,
that,
go like for like to Bruno, which is impossible because there's no one really like him.
But I think even you look at I think the closest player to Bruno in the squad is obviously Tonali, but Tonali will be in that midfield tomorrow. Yeah. Joe Linton will start. It's that right hand side, but I'm going to go for a really left field pick here. Or maybe not pick, but I'd say the player I think that could come in and maybe give similar attributes to Bruno. I'm going to say Lewis Miley.
Okay.
Similar. Similar. I was on the spot now. I'm going to explain myself. So, you got that passing ability, as I've seen, can unlock doors. Is a very, very good passer of the ball. Yes. We've seen that last season when it was the Alexander Isak assist against Chelsea. Yeah. For me, which I thought, which was obviously a very, very good. Just very calm young lad. Showed that passing ability last year. And Newcastle will miss that because Bruno is the man that has been the creative force in the final third of late. Obviously, I'm not saying Lewis Miley's going to replicate that, but he's got that in his locker to put passes in behind. Whereas you look at the likes of your Joe Willock, who I think will come into the team, by the way. I think it'll be Joe Willock that comes in. Sean Longstaff is the other option, but they don't. I think out of those midfielders, Lewis Miley's the best on the ball. So if you can't go like for like, but if you're looking at someone that I think is maybe similar, I think Lewis Miley's probably a pick, but I don't think that'll happen. By the way, that's just me thinking out loud. I know no one will agree with that. I think he's capable of unlocking doors, Lewis Miley, but hasn't played a lot of football as well. So
no. Yeah, Lewis Miley's an interesting one because he has been out for so long. He's had little glimpses here and there. He came on against Ipswich, got a good 10 minutes. Played in the previous round of the Carabao Cup against Chelsea for maybe a minute. Got one touch of the ball. I think obviously, like you say, it's probably too soon to throw him into an important game. Yeah, Joe Willock naturally would possibly come in, but then Sean Longstaff is, if you're looking at the right side of the midfield three, he's the person who often comes in that position in a performance where Newcastle will probably have to be disciplined away from home. It's the first leg. It's like, as what was put to Eddie Howe, it's 45 minutes rather than 90 minutes. It's about trying to stay in the game, trying to stay disciplined. If you can nick something, take it back to St James's Park, great. So Sean Longstaff in that regard, in terms of that midfield engine room, look, you're going to lose a lot with Bruno not being in the side, but with Sean Longstaff, his fitness, his running, that's a suitable player to come into the side where you're not changing more than one position, because if you could play Joe Willock on the right, but then he's not as natural out there, he's more natural on the left, and then if you put Joe Willock on the left, then who do you move over to the right? It's a delicate situation for Eddie Howe to manage, and you'll also have to manage the defence once again, because no Fabian Schär, no Emil Krafth, Jordan?
Yeah, it didn't sound that way. He said he was getting closer, but had to be careful with him resuming the contact work. So, I mean, possibly he didn't rule it out, but the way he
never quite rules anything out.
It didn't sound like Emil Krafth would be back at all. So, who starts on that right side defence again? He highly praised Sven Botman on the right hand side of the defence, which I asked about, because as people have probably seen from the last 2 videos now, including this one 3, I'm obsessed with the right foot, left foot balance at centre back. But Eddie Howe said that Sven Botman's got a very good right foot. Would need to play there more to get used to that. I think he used the term getting used to that angles. Obviously he hasn't played a lot of football as well, but I think the way Eddie Howe answered the question, I think there's a possibility we could see more Sven Botman on the right hand side, but obviously Fabian Schär will be back soon. But it's interesting to know that they've probably got that option now in Sven Botman, albeit he is a left footer. Because I think the two left footers for me, it just doesn't feel right. It's centre half. It really doesn't. I don't know why. And Liam said it'll be against such sort of numbers game, but yeah, maybe Sven Botman is the answer to that side if they were to pick up an injury. Because I've always said I think Fabian Schär should come straight back in, but not everyone will agree with that. Liam didn't agree with that, but I stick by mine.
No, I'm a big Fabian Schär fan. I know Liam's been like, well, Fabian Schär's in not great form. I would argue he's been up and down this season, but I think when Newcastle were solid this past month in the Premier League, Fabian Schär, generally speaking, has been very solid as well. So yeah, it's a difficult one to decide who comes back in once Fabian Schär is back available after the Bromley game, because the Bromley game you'd expect a lot of rotation anyway. It's sort of a unique game in that respect against a League Two side. But Sven Botman, after almost 10 months out, to then be like, right, you're away at Tottenham, highly physically demanding game, mentally demanding game too, where Newcastle were under the cosh for periods in that second half. Arsenal, different team, different approach, very physical, very demanding, and from set pieces as well. 4 days later or 3 days later to then play again, start again is a lot for Sven Botman, for any player really. But Eddie Howe once again said, look, he's been back training. Newcastle delayed his return. He was cleared to play or be available for the Villa game. Got illness after that, but has been fully fit basically since before Christmas and has been training fully with very little issues. So yeah, why can't he play 2 games in quick succession?
He put a lot of onus on the players as well, didn't he? Where he said, I know for a fact the players will want to play. Yeah. But it's also about having conversations with the medical team, because obviously I know they do all this interesting things behind the scenes now, where they obviously monitor players' percentage of picking up injuries, etc. So, I mean, we did say after the Spurs game that this one has the potential to feel like a game too far, but then you look at the team, and because it's such a big game, can you really afford to chop and change it that much?
No,
I don't think you can. It's season. It's sort of season defining, because obviously there's a second leg, but the reality is if Newcastle will go and get beat by heavy score like tomorrow night, then you've got the second leg in 4 weeks' time, and you could look at the tie being over. So it's massive. It's a chance to get to Wembley. I think probably just going to have to ask the players to put in one more big effort, and then just use the Bromley game as an opportunity to really rotate.
Yeah, it's going to be a big test. And Eddie Howe said a key part behind Newcastle's consistency and results in recent weeks has been his almost deliberate consideration to keep a consistent lineup and make very few changes unless they were forced. He said, look, in a bid to try and get results earlier in the season, he kept making changes to the side, and it led to inconsistent performances. Now those relationships have been building in the side. They're going to be ripped up slightly in terms of the midfield, and they were at the weekend in terms of the defence. But what that's resulted in is, look, great results, but tired players as well. And Eddie Howe's even said during games he's been reluctant to make changes, where you look at Alexander Isak, Anthony Gordon, players like that who have looked knackered at times in games, even as early as the first half at Spurs. Anthony Gordon also took a knock, a blow actually really to his nose at Spurs as well, managed to play on. Eddie Howe said that should have been a penalty. So if all things were fair, it would have been 3-1. So yeah, that's how things sort of stand going into the Arsenal game.
What would your team be if you had to name it now? What would just go?
Look, you have to choose your best team. It's one of the most important games of the season. If Alexander Isak, for example, declares himself fit to play, he starts every game for Newcastle United. Same with Bruno, same with Anthony Gordon, more or less. So yeah, I'd just go as strong as possible. Like I say, Isak has looked tired. You might have to manage his minutes later on, but Eddie Howe, like I said just before, has been reluctant to bring him off just because of, I guess, the threat he poses, even when he's done, as Eddie Howe put it. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, but I'd make as few changes as possible, to be honest.
I think you've got to take a risk, and I know, and this could really come back to backfire quite badly. But I think you've got to. I think you cannot go into a second leg against Arsenal. You can't go into a semi-final against Arsenal. Yeah, with that, but you can't go into any game against Arsenal with a weakened side, and you can make changes. And I think he's actually one of the ones where actually would probably looks like he's close to picking up an injury because he looks knackered.
Yeah.
But then who else do you play instead? Because Willisula,
Joe Willock up front.
you can't do that. So unfortunately you've got to take risks, and if injuries are picked up, then I'm sure we'll moan about it, but I wouldn't blame Eddie Howe for naming a near enough same start 11 tomorrow, for the exception with Bruno, because that's a team that's worked. As I say, get yourself through this one, get a positive result ahead of that St James's Park game in 4 weeks' time, and then I'd imagine you'll use the Bromley game, rightly or wrongly, to make probably 11 changes.
Yeah, it's that one last hurdle before you go, right, week off almost. That's no disrespect to Bromley.
No, because
you've got players who are chomping at the bit and wanting to play, who will play in that game, who should be good enough on paper to beat Bromley.
Yeah.
The likes of Harvey Barnes, Miguel Almiron, even Willisula up front. You've got Joe Willock, Sean Longstaff, who one if not both of them will probably play against Arsenal. Lewis Miley as well. And then defensively, Lloyd Kelly, Emil Kraft, does he come back into that situation? But if not, Matt Targett, does he start the left back? Hasn't started a game in a long time. So the options are there, even though Eddie Howe will say, look, he's got a thin squad and he's reluctant to rotate it. But against Arsenal, full strength, as strong as you can go. I'd probably go just to change as few positions as possible. Bruno out, obviously, because of the suspension. Keep Sven Botman in the side and put Sean Longstaff in, just because he's a disciplined player who, look, we know what Sean Longstaff is. I'm not going to say he's going to be that like-for-like replacement for Bruno at all. But if you need a disciplined performance, Sean Longstaff is someone to get it to you and hopefully keep you in the tie.
Yeah, to be fair, I said earlier about Joe Willock. I think he'll start, but I think it'll be Sean Longstaff. You've convinced yourself. But Lewis Miley, I'm just trying to say, I think because of the...
There's an argument there.
I don't know if I made this point. I'm not saying start Lewis Miley, but I think if you're looking at try and get a like-for-like replacement, he's not like-for-like, but I'm saying similar qualities to Bruno. Bruno was accused of not being the most athletic and isn't the fastest player on the squad, but can do that. Lewis Miley isn't the fastest player on the squad, but would hopefully be able to perform with Bruno, where he'd be able to press as well. But that was just the thing that came into my head. I delivered it probably really poorly. I'm not saying start Lewis Miley, but I think there's similar qualities.
Okay. Those are things Eddie Howe will have to...
Never the same player. Never the same player. Never be the same player.
Those are things Eddie Howe will have to consider tomorrow. I'm sure if he's watching this, you might have convinced him.
I don't think so, but yeah, that was just a little thing in my head I just wanted to bring out.
Anyway, we'll be back at the Emirates Stadium tomorrow as a duo. No Liam Kennedy as things stand. No, but
who knows?
We'll be back reporting on Newcastle United. Check out Shields Gazette, Newcastle World for all your transfer latest and match coverage from Eddie Howe's press conference and of course the game at the Emirates Stadium tomorrow. And we'll be bringing you a Geordie Journos video after that. But in the meantime, Jordan, T's and C's. Every Geordie Journos video is sponsored by Mitigate.
Mitigate transforms workplace mental health, mitigating legal risks, reducing absenteeism and boosting productivity. Delivering up to £9 ROI per £1 invested. Book your free demo today.
Get in. And Four Rivers Financial Planning, of course, our other long-term sponsor for all of your holistic financial and pension needs. Future-proof yourself by getting in touch with Four Rivers Financial Planning and they'll sort you out. And on that note, we'll wrap up. If you like what we do, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe for all your latest Geordie Journos content. As I say, we'll be travelling down to Arsenal in the morning, or Tuesday morning, and then be bringing you another video. There's been a lot of content over this winter period.
Yeah.
Like I say, speaking to Eddie Howe a lot, another press conference from him tomorrow, and then we'll be back here on Friday and Sunday, then Monday, Tuesday, for Wolves press conference, then Wolves. Busy times for the Geordie Journos in Newcastle United, but we love it, and you can follow us every step of the way by clicking that subscribe button, ringing that bell, and watching your Geordie Journos. Cheers.